Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, wherever you may be. This is, well, we're the Honey...
Nerdrevolt 25, guy.
I know, I was getting that. Thank you, Allison, for that. This is Nerdrevolt number 25, and we have, my name is Brian Martinez, I'm the host. I just wanted to let you know who's here, and we also have a special guest. First off, I'll introduce our special guest. This is John Smith. I swear to God, that's his real name. It's on his social security card. We checked it. John, why don't you say hello?
Hi there.
Okay, then welcome. And John, who are you with, just so that people know? Like, why are you here?
I'm part of the GamerGate committee that was assigned by Koretsky to choose the speakers for Airplay. I'm also going to be working the tech at that event.
All right. So yes, welcome to the show, John. We will try to be as nice as we normally are to each other with you.
Lies.
Maybe a little bit nicer. We also have Allison.
Hi.
Anna.
Hello.
Hannah.
Hello.
And Rachel.
F cake.
Before we get into the show itself, I'm going to give the floor to Allison so she can do mailbag stuff, because we've been a little bad about mailbags.
No, we haven't been bad. We've been good.
Okay.
We've been reasonable. I mean, we can't do them
We've been
every
reasonable.
single day.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of mail. In fact, I think we're probably going to have a Nerdrevolt devoted specifically to mail and reading your mail. If you're interested in talking to us, do send something to topic@badgerpod.com. Include paragraphs, that's how it gets read. And the form on the website is good for short messages. Don't use it for long messages that require paragraphs. Just send those to topic@badgerpod.com. That's topic@badgerpod.com. Now, let's get into it. Serp3N1 says, "Hey Badgers, not sure if I've sent you to this guys before, but this is an extremely interesting video to look into for the Nerdrevolt. It's really worth watching the entire thing, but to summarize, he goes into social justice warriors, a little bit of men's rights, cliques in the Magic the Gathering pro scene, his abuse at the hands of a female partner that was directly blamed on him despite mountains of evidence that it was not him, and I have just lost everything, excuse me. I really paused. Oh, yeah, I know. Just no, it's back. It's back. Okay, it's all right. It's really worth watching the entire thing, but to summarize, he goes into social justice warriors, a little bit of men's rights, cliques in the Magic the Gathering pro scene, his abuse at the hands of a female partner that was directly blamed on him despite mountains of evidence, and even a little on men's rights." I said that twice, didn't you? Okay. Wouldn't it be really awesome if you guys had a listen, and thanks for making my studies a little less painful. I actually think that you had to listen to this particular broadcast, Canna. So, because it was the one on Magic the Gathering Community by Rogue Deck Builder. Did you?
Well, we lost Hannah, like, just now, I swear.
Oh my God.
But yes, she had heard about it because we had a conversation about Magic the Gathering, which a couple of us have experience with. So, but yeah, Hannah just dropped out.
Hopefully we'll get her back shortly.
We should get her right back in a second.
So I lost the mailbag, and shortly after that, we lost Hannah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? When she comes back on, we'll mention it to her, but we can just move on to the next letter.
The cheese weasel is laughing.
We will do that.
No, before we do that, if you guys are interested in this video, it's More Hostility in Magic the Gathering Community, My Response by Rogue Deck Builder. So there you go.
If I could chime in on the topic real quick, before I got really involved with GamerGate, I had been a lot more involved with tabletop games, and I'd been only on the fringes. I can't probably speak from as much experience as Hannah, just because I'm not involved with Magic the Gathering or Warhammer 40K, which is where I see the brunt of this sort of stuff happening. There's been overall a large move of this kind of toxic SJW bullshit that we kind of see invading video games, and before that with Atheism Plus. So the game I personally play, Pathfinder, the company Pazzo is kind of run by sort of an SJW hierarchy. So it's something I'm like tangentially familiar with on the topic, but I probably couldn't go into any much more detail than I'm aware of these things happening.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with it in tabletop too. I've been DMing for years and years and years, and I've been seeing it creeping in the last decade or so, and it's pretty frustrating because if you want to say elect to disinclude it simply because it's not of interest to your narrative, like you're not because you're against it, but you're just sort of like, well, I don't want to really focus on that. People, they get all like, I don't know, they get their panties in a twist over it, and it's like, people grow up. Okay, so
we got a Hannah back, Brian. Before we move on, we have to.
We should mention it to her. Go ahead.
Hannah, we were talking about the Magic the Gathering hostility in the Magic the Gathering community.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys were talking about the video and everything?
Yeah, we were, and then we lost you.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, all the stupid things. Firefox decided to actually boot me out of everything to install an update. Like right now.
It just sucked you right down the tube.
No warning. No. Do you want to do this right now? No, nothing. And just like my computer just raped me. It didn't even ask my consent. But yeah, no, the hostility that he was talking about in that video, it's just one more area. It's one more place that we're seeing the exact same thing that we're seeing in video games, in tabletop gaming, in the scientific community, in heavy metal, in every place, in the sci-fi community, every place that we've brought people in from to talk, the maker community, all of these areas seem to have this same problem of an invasion, really, of social justice ideology through people who have taken some level of interest in the hobby and then decide that everybody else that was there before they were has to conform to their social standards and their social preferences, or they're just not, they're not welcome in there. And from what it looks like, it's completely inundated the Magic the Gathering competition community. And just the little bit I've been reading, it's pretty bad. There's a guy who has been banned pretty much until I think 2026 or 2035 or something like that, because he's got a history. He was a sex offender in his past. He did time. He basically served his time, and has been considered rehabilitated enough to go back to being part of the community, except that, of course, the social justice types at Magic the Gathering decide that he needs extra punishment because he just might spontaneously, throw somebody on the table apparently in the middle of a game and rape them. I don't know. These are people with their skin is so thin you can see their veins. And I haven't played Magic the Gathering since the mid-90s. I quit somewhere around the Ice Age expansion because I got tired of Wizards of the Coast coming out with wave after wave of just expansion, and they were like, they'd ban cards and they'd have the same card would be in the expansion, but it would have a different name and it would have a different picture and different terms used on it, but it did the same thing. And so you would have to get the new expansions to play with anybody that played tournament rules, and I got tired of it, and so I started just selling off what was worth anything, which at that point in time not much was, because they had flooded the market, and I gave away everything that wasn't worth anything, and I haven't played since. And I'm kind of glad now, because if I had actually gotten serious about it and started going into competition or anything like that, I would hate it there now. I just can't imagine being involved in a community where everything is that closely, tightly, socially controlled. I'd never survive that.
Okay, shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
If it sounds like I'm talking from a wind tunnel, it's because I am. So Sva has made an inquiry. Hi y'all, love the show. I mostly listen to other podcasts on the TuneIn app. Are you guys on the TuneIn? I've been searching for you guys and I can't find you. If you're not on, please get on. Thanks, Sva. Well, Sva, as soon as I received your email, I registered to go on the TuneIn app, and I just received an email, I believe, this morning saying that we are now on TuneIn. So maybe you're listening to us on TuneIn right now. There you go. You ask and you shall receive. All right. Louis Wallenberg has made an inquiry. Hello there to all of the Badgers on the podcast and any eventual guest. My question relates to Mass Effect and one of the alien races within that universe. Oh, God. Quinarians?
I think Quarians.
Quarians. As a narrative device, they have striking similarities to gypsies, insert politically correct word for here, in Europe, especially in culture, attire, and accent, and how they suffer through the same kind of racism as their real-world counterpart. Painted as a group of thieves, smugglers partaking in illegal and organized crime, for example. I think this makes the main Quinarian of the story, Tala Vas Normandy, into a very deep character, as she's actually quite a good example of an exposed minority that deals with problems of stereotyping from the majority. Yet we see feminist criticism criticize Talia for being sexy, having a tight bodysuit that every single one of their race has, including the men, and therefore is a negative character to represent women. I think it's a sacrilege towards such a great non-player character with a deep personality, badass shotgun, and tech knowledge, and a attractive appearance, to be brought down simply because she has tight clothing. Isn't it feminists that degrade women into their various body parts while ignoring their personality by doing this, especially in gaming? I'd love your perspective on this. Well, thank you. So, guys, anyone want to chime in on that?
I think Anna wanted to say something. Anna, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I totally could. I'm sort of part gypsy in the sense, not how Americans necessarily perceive of it, but the way it is in Russia, which is a little differently. So from what I understand, there's the nation of gypsies that live in certain areas of America and Europe. Well, growing up in Russia, we had our own gypsy culture, which was basically Romanians and Moldovans, which I'm like half or less than half Romanian Moldovan. And gypsies are seen, at least in like the movies of the 60s and 70s, that depicted not really the Middle Ages, but a little after that, like right before the Bolshevik Revolution, where we still had kings and kind of like vassals and people who owned like dukes, I guess. The gypsies were a band of brightly dressed flamenco, basically playing violin, playing people that you invited to your party to basically entertain. So they were like jesters in the sense that they provided entertainment at like all the fancy parties, and they played music, they danced, wore like flowers in their hair, so kind of like nomadic hippies in a sense. Interestingly, I did also grow up with some strange ideas about gypsies from the Moldovans and the Romanian side. Like when visiting there, they would talk about certain ideas they had about gypsies, such as that, so a gypsy woman, this is something my stepdad told me when I was growing up. So like a gypsy woman will like come up to you and she'll be like asking men, for directions or something or other, and in the meantime she would like hypnotize them, and there would be hours pass by and they wouldn't have any of their money, and they would wouldn't know what happened because of the crazy vagina magic of gypsies. And so that was kind of, I guess you could consider not unflattering attitudes towards them, but for the most part in movies and how we remember gypsies is as these fun-loving people you invite to entertain. But culturally, there's still some ideas that if you're in Romania specifically and you have one of the traditionally dressed gypsy women or older gypsy woman come out to touch your hand to tell you your fortune, you shouldn't let her do that because she'll somehow hypnotize you and take your money. So that's about my experience with it, and I look a lot like Romanians do, so I've been having a lot of fun with the gypsy idea from all that up in Russia. So that's about it for my story.
All right, thanks, Hannah. I wanted to say something about it briefly, but I want to make sure I understand what the mailbag person wrote. Were they saying that people like Anita were criticizing this female character because she is sexualized, but ignoring the fact that she is the character experiences racism within the context of the game, and that should be like that should make that character, like more noble as opposed to the sexual part. Like that's what I'm trying to understand.
What they're saying is that because they experience this particular hardship, or I guess any hardship, or they overcome it, that they should be considered on the merits of their personality rather than the fact that they're wearing apparently a skin-tight costume that's a part of their entire race's male or female traditional attire, I guess.
Okay.
So it's
well, yeah, and also, I mean, it makes the character more interesting if they have to deal with all of these social problems and stuff like that. It becomes less one-dimensional and bland, and more, it makes them more into a three-dimensional character than just something on paper, you know?
I forgot to mention gypsies were actually included in the concentration camps along with the Jews. So they were quite heavily discriminated against in Europe.
Okay, John?
So, considering Mass Effect and the, well, actually, the thing about these people is they don't really care what the character is like as long as they have something to nitpick about. They just want to take whatever they can and drag it through the mud. So it doesn't matter how well you're portraying the character or how you're meeting their quote-unquote agenda. They'll find something to slam you for. It's the same sort of example where Assassin's Creed 4 didn't have a female protagonist, and then everybody slammed them for that. But then they come out with Assassin's Creed, the new one that's in London, and they're like, "Oh, you're exploiting feminism for publicity or whatever."
Yeah, you can't satisfy these people. The only thing I was going to say is that I guess in the context of the story, it makes sense, and I understand what the writer is trying to say, that the character's experiences or the lore should play a larger part in what defines them rather than what they look like, which is what people like Anita are calling attention to, which kind of runs counter to what Anita herself would normally have wanted. But the problem is that you're treating what she's saying like it's something that you can actually argue against logically, when in actual fact it doesn't matter what it is. Just like to speak to what John is saying, it doesn't matter what it is. The idea is to make it look sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, ableist, whatever it takes to basically create outrage. So and I worry that sometimes people try to use a higher form of social justice to combat social justice. So to say, but this character experiences real racism because the lore says X, Y, and Z, doesn't necessarily cancel out the argument. It just sort of like adds more fuel to the fire that people can use. So at the end of the day, in my opinion, it comes down to the fictional characters. The developers can do whatever the fuck they want, and if you don't like it, you don't have to play the game. And that's basically the end of it, to me anyway. But I don't know that that's what they were saying, but that was where the colics on my neck were standing up, because I was like, wait, what's going on here? So I will give the floor to Hannah.
Yeah, I kind of have a what's going on here question myself. I mean, it sounds to me, let me see if I've got this wrong, but it sounds to me like the same social justice warriors that complain that women in video games are too one-dimensional, that they don't experience real-life characteristics, and they don't experience real-life circumstances. Their portrayal is unrealistic, and they have no depth. That those same people are now complaining because this character has realistic characteristics, has too much depth, and experiences circumstance that are known to happen in real life, like being subjected to racism and having cultural traditions like clothing styles that maybe are disapproved by feminists. So it seems to me that they're complaining because they got what they demanded, and are now like singling out details about the character and ignoring the character's depth. They're actually doing the thing that they criticize. Is that a correct assessment of the situation?
They're reducing her down to her sexiness.
Yeah. But I mean, is that pretty much correct assessment of the situation?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
Well, hell, fuck them. Don't try to argue with those assholes. They're not going to be satisfied. There's really nothing you can say if they're going to look at, if they're going to bitch, oh, you're not doing these things, and then when you do them, they're going to be like, oh, you did these things, shame on you. There's nothing that you can do. They're just idiots.
They just want the outrage.
Yeah, they're outrage addicts.
The funny thing about Tally is that she's actually one of the most realized characters of the series. She's one of the only 2 squad mates you can have throughout the entire trilogy, and she really does get her own arc between the 3 games. It's fully realized. She really does have the great depth of a supporting character you would want there. Not only that, but if you really want to start inspecting the outfit, like she's wearing a traditional like headpiece, like cloth over her head. Like it's probably not accurate to say it's a burqa, but she's literally wearing a fucking burqa, and they're complaining that she's too sexy. You can't beat stupid at its own level. It just drags you down and pulls you through the mud.
Exactly. It's almost like reminds me of a news article about something related to something real, where a woman was talking about how she wanted to wear the hijab, and there was a woman in the West that was telling her that she doesn't really want it. It's just that, her internalized misogyny is telling her that she wants to. And she's like, but I'm a Muslim, and this is what I believe in, and this is what I want to do. And it's weird because it's like this whole like we know what's best for you kind of thing. And that's the character is like that. That's like part of her. It's like a traditional dress that she wears, right? So I didn't mean to cut you off, John.
You're good.
Hannah?
Actually, John, were you done before I go jumping in?
Yeah, I made my point.
Oh, okay. The thing about the scarf, which I always pronounce wrong, so I'm not going to try to pronounce it. But I've heard that previously, women telling Muslim women that they don't really want to wear it, that it's just internalized misogyny, and it's bullshit. There are societies where clothing itself is like, pretty much optional. Not just nudist colonies and nudist camps and stuff like that, but there's areas where or at least there has been areas where people really don't pay any attention at all to nudity. And I'm sure those people probably think that clothing looks ridiculous to them because they're not used to it. They're not accustomed to it. And it might look exotic to them. It might look pretty to them the way that those scarves do. A lot of them are beautifully decorated, and the way they're worn is often very pretty as well. But to tell somebody that it's strictly misogyny, that they want to cover up a part of their body that they're accustomed to feeling is part of their nudity, if it's exposed, is ridiculous. It's like demanding that because some people go completely naked, everybody go completely naked and just suddenly start feeling comfortable about it, and accuse them of having some sort of bigotry against themselves for not wanting to change, not immediately being comfortable with the idea of that change, and not wanting to give up the thing that is normal for them. It's stupid to say that to somebody, and it's racist. It's like you're singling somebody out and claiming that their heritage, their the thing that they are accustomed to as part of their culture, not because they are shamed for showing something, but because that something is special, and they have the right to say only certain people have access to it. To actually try to shame them for that is more bigoted than you can possibly imagine. And whether or not I agree with the all of the aspects of various religions and everything, I think probably one of the stupidest things feminists do is run around telling other women, shit like that about their families' traditions or their cultures or anything like that. You can't possibly get more off-putting.
Well, there's the other thing is that they can reduce any clothing choice down to men. or so-called internalized misogyny. If you wear a bikini, it's because you want to get men's attention. Internalized misogyny. If you wear sweatpants, it's because you don't want to get men's attention. Internalized misogyny. So as long as men exist with autonomous thoughts about women's clothing, any woman's clothing can be reduced down to internalized misogyny. It's a never-ending stream of turning someone else's heritage or choices or whatever particular thing they want to do that day into a line of outrage crack.
And it's also a demand to let feminists define everything about your culture that you've been a part of for your whole life and your family's been a part of for generations, and your people built. That some outsider's going to come along and define your culture for you. I mean, that's just total shit.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to say it, though.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Shoutouts to Raven Moondragon by D. Oracle. Allison, thanks for coming up with that character. I believe she's been permanently retired, though.
Character? Oh my god, no, she's not a character. That's me! Oh yeah! I'm Raven Moondragon, and I totally agree that anything a woman wears is internalized misogynies, and I get to judge her. Totally. And you can't judge me for wearing, well, I don't know, Daisy Dukes and a little tank top, because that's totally my own choice. But every other woman, they only get to wear what I tell them to wear. That's the truth.
You guys don't realize, underneath her clothes, she's totally naked.
Oh yeah, I'm totally naked. And I'm the only woman who gets to be naked, so remember that. I get all the sex appeal, no other woman gets it, and I get to judge you. I get to judge you so bad. You can like it, you have to like it. Alright.
Can we get Allison back on the phone?
Oh, that was terrible. I'm sorry, guys. You guys had to mention her at my lowest energy day. I'm like just propping myself up on my little walking desk handrail. Basically have an IV drip of coffee in my vein just to keep myself awake. But yeah, so let's get on to the Airplay topic, and John Smith has come on the show, all the way onto this show, onto this Google Plus Hangout, which I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a metaphorical distance of a sort. Clicking the link, it's not really a physical distance. But
I mean,
anyway.
You guys are based in Canada, right?
Yeah, well, not really. We're based wherever Brian is at the moment, which is Chicago. Oops.
That's far enough from Florida.
I'm towing the line.
Yeah. Okay, so essentially, before we get into the Airplay stuff with John, I wanted to give a thanks to everybody who donated to get Karen to Airplay. She will attempt to make contact with Milo and did I say that right? Milo.
You're on the ball today for mispronouncing names.
Oh, it's a thing.
It's what I do.
I thought they called him Milo on the British newscast, though. I think are we Americanizing it with the Milo, or is that how he pronounces it himself? I'm not sure.
I've been in a call with him once. I believe he pronounced it Milo.
Okay,
There
let's go with Milo. So she'll try to hook up with Milo and Kathy and Catherine and everybody and all that. Anyway, so she's thanks again for getting her there, and also the person who will be covering her there with a video camera, that is. And yeah, let's get into talking about Airplay. So John, tell us when it is, just to get everybody who doesn't know up to speed.
All right, so Airplay is going to be happening in Miami, Florida, happening on August 15th. The first talk and the live stream going live at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For you West Coasters, that's going to be pretty early.
Yeah, no, that's pretty early.
Yeah, I talked with Koretsky about getting it sooner, but it wasn't going to work out. We're at 10. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess we'll just have to deal with it. I mean, it's not too bad for me because I'm sort of in the middle. But yeah, that's pretty early for everybody on the West Coast. But then who cares about them anyway? You know, they're on the West Coast.
I could quickly go into the rest of the schedule and the topics if you'd like.
Sure, go ahead.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it. Lay it on us. Lay it down.
I'll try and and my best newsman and anchor voice. From 10 a.m. to 10:15 a.m. What the hell is GamerGate and why should I give a damn? listen to Mark Seb, Alum Bukhari, and Ash Snell describe what Gamergate is and why you should care. From 10:15 to noon, let's get ethical. Real-world examples of gaming journalism. This part of the talk is going to involve the speakers on our side listing 5 of the most egregious, unethical breaches of Gamergate to the opposing side, which is journalists from the SPJ and Derek Smart, who I believe is an indie game dev who aligns himself as neutral to the Gamergate issue. I'm not 100% clear on that. From noon to 1, there is a lunch period. Everybody goes and gets something to eat. And then from 1 to 3 p.m., we have Milo Yiannopoulos, Kathy Young, and Christina Hoff-Summers talking about how the media should cover Gamergate and online controversies like it. And after that, there's a GG in Miami meeting happening at a beer hall walking distance from Airplay, but that's not officially part of Airplay. I'm just mentioning it because it's awesome.
You realize that Karen will apparate there, the instant that Airplay is over. You guys will be walking over, and then she'll be there with like a couple tankards drained already. Hi!
I wouldn't doubt it if a lot of the speakers ended up instantly migrating that way after the talks were over, but yeah, it's going to be a bigger than DC as far as we can tell.
Yeah? Wow, that's cool. Well, you expect it because it's a pretty big thing. A lot of people are excited about it. It's pretty important. Well, because of the possibility that the journalists will give Gamergate a fair shake in the scheme of things.
Well, that's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to make sure we do get our fair shake.
Yep. We're also, I believe that Panina, who created the banner for our rather interesting trip to Calgary. Interesting. She will also be at Airplay as well, and at GG in Miami. And
well, actually, just GG in Miami, I think. I don't know if she's
just GG in Miami. Okay, well maybe she can't.
I don't know if she's doing Airplay. We don't know. I do know she's doing GG in Miami.
I have sent the banner that we had at Calgary, and then also had at GG in BC and GG in Vic, to Airplay with Karen. So hopefully it'll arrive with her, and some of you guys can sign it if you're going, and you don't mind signing it, because I don't want to pressure anyone into signing the banner, but it would be cool if you did. But again, you don't have to.
I wouldn't mind signing the banner.
Well, there you go.
And having all of our speakers sign the banner, yeah.
No, if they want to. I mean, it's not necessary, but yeah.
If they're going to be there in person and the banner's there and you got a Sharpie in their hand and they're already drunk, I could probably coerce them into it.
Okay, I don't know if I can be party to that, unless you get enthusiastic consent. They have to mount that damn banner and take it for a ride.
I'm sure the beer hall will give us a place to put it up or something.
Okay, all right. Okay, come on, guys. Just do you guys have anything else to add to Airplay, or should we move into the topics? Because I'm just so low energy.
No, it's fine.
My brain feels like a brick. And I also have this strangely sensitive spot on my scalp that I don't know what the heck I did. I probably slept on something hard.
It's a soft spot.
So now we're just talking about bruises.
Yeah, I just got bruises on my body. I don't know why.
I wasn't.
It's the internalized.
I feel like this is a question.
It's the internalized misogyny trying to come out from under your skin.
No, I feel like this is a game. It's not.
It's the patriarchy.
It's just a game of Cards Against Humanity, and the answer is a big black dick or something like that.
There's so much patriarchy going on right now that you just have bruises from it, Allison. That's what it is. Battered badger syndrome.
Yeah, I actually do have an idea of how I got them, but we'll not go into that.
Okay, I got some questions from the chat. Somebody who wasn't fucking listening is asking, when is Airplay again?
It's happening! 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, August 15th, 2015, 10 a.m.
Okay.
10 a.m. Eastern
Standard Time. Who organized it? Somebody's asking. Is there the organizers, or are they mystery peoples?
So The man mostly behind it is Michael Koretsky. He's the Region 3 director of the Society of Professional Journalists, which is the oldest journalism guild in America. He was doing a previous event called Forging the Future and decided to tack on Airplay to the event as like a last-minute thing because he had seen some of the controversy with Gamergate and he just wanted to cover it because it interested him. And then he realized he just created an event bigger than the thing he was hosting in the first place. But that's for us to work on.
Okay, and we have, and as far as like what we can expect, because there might be people who don't really know what it is, are we looking at what, like a series of debates or just interviews, or like what is it, kind of like in a nutshell? What are we looking at for what Airplay is?
So the best way to think about it is when you go to a convention, there's panels, and you go to the panel, and then they put on a show for you, or they're covering a specific topic, or they take questions from the crowd. It's going to be a lot like that. We're going to be having 2 separate panels. The first panel is, what is Gamergate, why should I care, and the 5 most egregious examples of Gamergate. That talk is happening between Mark Seb, Alum Bakari, Ash Snow, Len Reform, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his name, Len, who's going to be the next president of SPJ, and Derek Smart, with Koretsky moderating. The second talk is going to be covering Gamergate and other online controversies like it, which will feature Milo Yiannopoulos, Kathy Young, Christina Hoff-Summers, and the other speakers I had previously mentioned, as in the neutral parties and Koretsky.
Oh, sweet. Now, when you say this is going to be a panel, is this going to be one of those panels where you can actually like talk to the audience and then the audience talks back? Or is this going to be, and then you like entertain ideas and stuff, even if they don't like coincide with your pre-existing notions? Or is it going to be one of those panels, not, I mean, just plucking this out of the air here, where you go and you pose a question, or you might disagree with something, and then you get kicked out the day after? Is this one, like, which one of those do you think this is going to be?
Well, if people try and get up and pull fire alarms, or run up on stage, or ask Koretsky who his waifu is, they will probably be evicted from the building just because we're not going to handle any of that bullshit. But we are taking live audience questions as well as questions from the from Twitter as well as 8chan and Kotaku in Action. So we're going to try and hit the big 3 online spheres of influence or discussion as far as Gamergate is concerned, as well as take the audience questions, and those will be thrown in the middle of the panel discussion. It's not like we're going to have a separate Q&A. The questions will just come naturally during the discussions.
Oh, no, that's great. That sounds like a very potentially productive and mature way to conduct a conversation around Gamergate. And I'm looking forward to the very first actual discussion around Gamergate.
Mature? Oh my fucking god.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. So, I don't know, is there any other, like, anybody got any last thoughts or questions about Airplay? I'm excited. I want to see how it goes.
Oh, Brian, when is Airplay?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. You didn't tell us when Airplay was yet, did you?
So here's what I'm going to do. SPJAirplay.com is the #1 source of information you need to know everything about SPJ Airplay. That is spjairplay.com. For the schedule on SPJ Airplay, visit spjairplay.com/schedule. Airplay will be starting at 10 a.m. on August 15th, 2015 in Miami, Florida, hosted in the Quebec Center.
Okay, that's the Julian calendar year, right?
It's the fucking calendar that's on my phone. It's the shit Google tells me. I don't know.
We're not going by any kind of moon calendar or
no,
Jewish calendar.
No, we're not fasting for Yom Kippur. It's whatever calendar Google's going to tell you, or whatever
It's
calendar.
the Google time.
It's the Google time.
The year of our Lord
everything.
Oh, Jesus, if it's Google time, then that day will probably sucked into some sort of void.
Yeah, I mean, ever since Google bought time itself, I think they've changed the calendar. But as long as we're all on Google time, that's okay.
Well, I mean, I, for one, enjoy our new Google overlords.
Yes, the Google lords.
We've been praying to them for information for so long, it's only the next natural step.
That makes me the only heretic. Fuck Google.
They've prophesied the coming of a Messiah, and he has perfect hair.
Hannah, they will find you and your Firefox followers.
They've already done it to you.
What?
I'm already suffering.
Oh, what? You people don't use Firefox?
Oh, I might be on Firefox right now, but I'm not going to.
Maybe. But you're not going to disclose that incredibly important information.
No. Okay, so I guess we can go into the story. So I'm going to give it to Rachel, and Rachel, you.
Wait! We have a question from John. Okay. Oh, this might be belaboring the point, but John Smith, what is Airplay called?
No.
So, Airplay is quite literally called Airplay. You'd be surprised.
Okay, you stupid fuckers, stop trolling us.
Okay, guys, stop.
That'll just make it do it more. That'll make it do it more. You know that, right?
All right, now moving along. Rachel, Rachel Edwards. Do you have any stories for us?
I do, but hold on. For some reason, apparently I ended up saving in the wrong spot than I usually do. So I'm just gonna have to load the page. So
you're digging in the wrong spot.
You put it in the wrong spot, Rachel. That's why it's sore.
Hold on a second.
Putting it in the wrong spot is totally.
We got some waiting.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Okay.
No humming.
Well, Rachel, while you're digging in.
Okay, so, you know what, let's just, like, totally jump all over each other.
No. Wait.
And not let each other speak. And while she hums in the background and people are like, fuck this, we're tuning away from this stupid channel and its cacophony of bullshit.
I'm almost there. Almost there. I promise it will be good for you, too.
Okay.
That's all rape.
It's all rape. Flashbacks. I'm getting flashbacks.
All over each other is rape. Putting it in the wrong place is rape. This is like the rapiest show we have had yet.
Okay, no, well, Google hasn't eaten it yet, so it's not completely.
Okay,
Google
I have it.
Google rape.
Yeah. All right, you got it?
I've got it.
I've got it. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Okay. Yes.
Okay,
My
then
body is ready, Allison. Just take it. Just do it. Okay. Donald Trump and Gamergate. Controversy has once again erupted around Donald Trump after a recent GOP debate, with the party declaring that he was unwelcome after alleged sexist remarks against Fox correspondent Megyn Kelly. But the real puzzle in this is how one article managed to pull Gamergate into the discussion on the backlash Megyn Kelly received. Because the same guy who put together the bogus stats suggesting that Gamergate predominantly targeted women has now put together a Topsy chart that suggests that Megyn Kelly is now unfairly receiving harassment in the aftermath of the debate. But the article doesn't stop there. It goes on to suggest that there is an ingrained hatred of women in our culture, and that this is the cause of both Gamergate and the Megyn Kelly backlash on Twitter. It's not that Megyn Kelly asked Donald Trump questions that were politically irrelevant, and it's not that the women criticized in Gamergate did anything that merits angry comments. No, it's just deeply entrenched sexism somehow. It doesn't matter that Israel Galvez, the man in question who did the Topsy survey, is direct evidence to the contrary. It doesn't matter that he, unlike the myriad of women in the anti-Gamergate camp, was actually swatted. No, that doesn't matter because people are saying hateful things on the internet, and acknowledging that men also received harassment in the crossfire fucks with the narrative, because why use basic common sense when you can just look at a highly unscientific chart that was generated in a few minutes? That's really the gist of this situation. Someone put together a Topsy thing. Oh, I'm gonna look up the tweets surrounding this particular thing, and now I'm going to say that the reason behind all of these things is sexism, and not because you said something or did something that just pissed off a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, but it's a pie chart. Pie charts never lie. I guess there's.
It wasn't even a pie chart. It was like a Topsy thing. So it was just a little line graph thingy.
Well, they can be breadsticks.
And it doesn't account for all the numbers either.
Yes. Well, I mean, what do you expect? They don't need to go on much to create the outrage.
I mean, I'm not even a fan of Donald Trump, but even I know that it's bullshit to just ask someone a whole bunch of sexist questions in hopes of trapping someone, and not asking them anything relevant in a debate in hopes that they're just going to trap them and make them look like an asshole. Well, that's the thing. Trump doesn't give a shit if he looks like an asshole. He doesn't care. No fucks are given. So I don't know what the fuck they were trying to do, what they thought they were doing.
I actually have mostly been completely neutral to apathetic on the subject of Trump in general throughout my life, but when he was questioned at this, there was my husband was watching him at a press conference, and some very, very dour woman who was, like, I guess in her 20s or early 30s, but incredibly dour despite that. I mean, Jesus, you're in your 20s or early 30s. Shouldn't you be enjoying your life?
Imagine what she's gonna be like when she's 50.
I know. It's like, and she was saying, you're sexist. You're a horrible person, because he apparently insulted some women on Twitter, and he was like, yeah, no, Sal. I don't give a fuck. I give no fucks about this. And besides, I would insult men too. And it's like, yeah, finally someone's just saying to these, and I don't trust him at all. I think he's up to something, but somebody is standing up and saying, God damn, just shut the fuck up. Your strident, hyper aggressive, outraged nonsense is just shut up.
You know that picture of the ladies from the women's Christian temperance movement that, the lips that touch alcohol will not touch ours, and everybody made fun of it because that's what she's going to look like when she's 50.
Yeah, it's like all the fun and joy and prettiness will leach out of her face and land on her butt somehow, and her face will just be like a prune. And it's not because she's ugly.
Yeah, it's not going to be because she's ugly. It's going to be because
your personality projected itself out of your face like something like that alien xenomorph coming out of someone's chest, except it was your personality coming out of your face. That's the bursting out.
She said something that might have been rude to the women folk. Holy shit!
That type is the queen of the loaded question.
Oh,
I get them all the time on Twitter. Loaded. In fact, I've been dealing with a controversy, discussing a controversy on Twitter quite recently, in which somebody decided to float a loaded question my way, and then when I did not give the answer that they thought would be a gotcha, they tried to make up a gotcha to sort of use as a gotcha to the answer that I did give. It's just the loaded question is like the first weapon of irrational women. Do these pants make my ass look fat? It's just loaded questions. Loaded. But as far as Trump is concerned, I have maybe not the strongest feeling about it, but there's very distinct sense that he might just be trolling the entire country.
Yeah, I get that sense too.
There's something about this, his run that just... There's something about it that just feels like any minute now, he's going to come out on the stage for a debate or something, or a speech, and he's going to open up and give the first few lines of "Never going to give you up" or something like that instead of a regular speech.
For all your base are belong to me.
Yeah, but I just feel like he's going to come out and rickroll everybody or some such thing, and I'm waiting. I'm not taking anything in the primary seriously until later. I'm waiting to see what's going on.
You're laying in wait, but I just want to say, Rachel budded. She reproduced asexually, and then she disappeared entirely. Huh. Okay.
That's strange.
She did say
that's
something.
That's not relevant.
It's not.
It's rape.
It's relevant to me. Shush. Not everything is rape. Quiet.
Everything is rape.
Yes, I know, but not in this world. But anyway, you said Rachel was saying something about he's insulted the women folk, and that's what this really is. Like a neo-Puritan, like women can't handle this kind of smack talk. I mean, isn't that sort of like somebody insults you and it's like, game on, right? We're gonna have some fun. No, they have to faint. Go on their little fainting couches. Go ahead, John. I'm gonna stop wittering.
It's fine. I I wanted to go back for a second on Trump. I doubt he's actually trolling because, I mean, the man's rich and he can do whatever the hell he wants, but I don't think you legitimately run for president just to back up and say, hey guys, I was just kidding. But I'll tell you what he is doing is that he's definitely playing right into the hands of, like, people on the internet and trolls. He's literally just, like, feeding Milo, like, he's literally giving Milo everything he wants, and, like, people in the country realize, you know, you don't actually want Trump as president for numerous reasons, but he's literally eating right out of, like, people's hands, like the quote-unquote trolls' hands, and not to call, like, Milo a troll or anything, but he's sort of pandering to a specific audience and doing his own thing, and it's quite evident that he's playing to that specific sort of character or that demographic.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen a net increase in trollish behavior on the part of the people that you wouldn't expect to be trolling. You know, and maybe it's the elites are starting to give no fucks anymore. It's like this is at some point you look at the society and the stupidity that runs it, and it's just like, what? Why not? Why not just do it? Just go full troll.
Well, here's the thing. You know, on one hand, you do think, you know, oh, you don't just run for president and then quit. But you know, we've seen that before. That's how Bill Clinton got elected. Ross Perot divided the vote. So and he quit when he thought he was going to win. When it looked like he was actually going to win the election, that's when he backed out.
Well, maybe it's because I'm so young and I wasn't aware of that example. But yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was hilarious in some ways, and there was one other thing that was hilarious that happened around that particular candidate. Sesame Street created a character called Ross Parrot, and that mimicked his style of speech, and actually had to take the Ross Parrot down because he was offended. So, but yeah.
Do you remember that?
The parrot used to ask people if it could finish and everything. Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish? It was hilarious. And then disappeared. But yeah, he ran, and when it looked like he was going to win, he quit. And then when it looked like Clinton was going to lose, he re-entered the election. It was quite an interesting thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Just to give a little bit to what Hannah was saying, I was thinking, wow, this could be a split the vote kind of situation. But go ahead. I think I stepped on you, Brian. So.
I'm because I had to let my fucking bitch of a dog out, but so I missed part of the story. But and I don't know if you guys already said it, but I find Trump entertaining because, to be quite frank, like it could be a giant troll because he doesn't normally. Politicians have to speak the language of politics when they are in a debate or in an interview or talking. And one of the things about Trump is that he doesn't care. He really doesn't care who he pisses off. He says whatever he wants. And so that's one of the things that I actually kind of admire. And the fact that somebody like Megyn Kelly, who normally feminists hate because she's on Fox News and you're just supposed to hate them, she uses their talking points to talk to him, and he still, basically just throws her, like, whatever, I don't care. Like what the kind of maneuvers that normally would work on other politicians because they have to appeal to everyone, he doesn't care about. Like, that shit doesn't faze him. And I find that kind of admirable. And I think it's hilarious. And if even if he didn't, like, win, even though everybody seems like he's pretty popular, but even if he didn't win, I think that it sort of shows how kind of tired and fed up everyone is getting with all of this political mumbo-jumbo and the media and everything else. And then, like, he's kind of, I wouldn't say he flip-flop, but when it comes to Gamergate, he's actually had things to say that is both pro and anti at the same time. Like, he doesn't particularly, he thinks that video games are not good for youths, which isn't really anti-Gamergate per se. It's just kind of like, just what old people probably, like old rich guys that like him probably think, or at least he does. But at the same time, he's been in support of it because I remember he retweeted a couple things and he even said something to a a prominent GamerGate guy named the Commissar of GamerGate. He sent a tweet out that was supposedly backing him up. I don't know for sure if that was like a real thing or not, but it looked like it. And I think it's because he also, I think he might despise the media even more, which is what the GamerGate is fighting, and I think he knows that. So I don't know. It's that's it. I mean, I don't know what you guys have said or what was said, but that's the stuff that I find interesting.
You know what I've always wondered? How is it that lawyers got a worse rap than the press?
You're supposed to dislike lawyers. That's like there's just certain people that you're supposed to not like, and the press is big on putting it out there. I don't know. I think it's because lawyers' special power is figuring out ways around shit. And
figuring out ways to fuck people, and nobody but the rich can afford to have lawyers. So really, a lot of times, just like the cops, nowadays they're just bodyguards for the rich. Same with the lawyers.
Well, that's
fucked.
I mean, that's how they're presented. Like the police, I actually have a.
Oh, it's not just presentation.
I have a thing about the police too, because people who become cops are like people who become firefighters. I think in general they want to do it because they want to do some service for their community. They want to do that. Like I remember when I was a little boy, I wanted to be a cop too. But one of the things that's ironic is that when you are a firefighter, people think that you're a hero, because normally if a firefighter is kicking your door down to get into your house, it means that you're in trouble and they're there to save you. But if a cop is kicking a door down to your house, it means that you're in trouble and they're there to arrest you. So our perception of what we think of cops and firefighters is different for those reasons. Of course, we always change our opinion of cops and firefighters also when it is to our benefit. Like, for example, when 9/11 happened and there were cops digging people out of the rubble, they were heroes, and we honored them, we put them in comic books, we painted them on whatever. But we're not supposed to really like cops because they represent the establishment in a negative way. So if you're someone who is in Occupy Wall Street and there's like a guy spraying people, then you're not supposed to like them, because we don't view them as individuals. Well, I mean, like I do, but I think that a lot of people at large, they view lawyers in the same way they view the police, in the same way that they often view the military. There's just something negative that's supposed to come with it. But people like paramedics and firefighters, that's a different thing, even though they're all trying to provide services that everybody wants. John, go ahead. Or Hannah.
Yeah. I want to say something real simple about this. The difference between the perception of lawyers and the perception of the press is very simple. Everybody knows that lawyers practice politics. Lawyers are politicians. They're just politicians that use the law as their medium, as opposed to politicians that use election and write the law. Although many politicians that become civil servants that write the laws are also lawyers. So they're just politicians, and everybody knows they're politicians. Everybody knows what their job is. Everybody knows what they are there for, and they get their reputation for the same reason that people tend to look down on people that clean up their messes in other areas of life. They just do, and it's in some ways it's crappy, in other ways it's par for the course. You're going to get some people in any profession that are unscrupulous, and everybody gets a bad reputation because of those people. On the other hand, in the media, people have been largely unaware that the majority of journalists out there, people that call themselves journalists out there, are also politicians that are busy practicing politics rather than doing the thing that they are telling everybody they're doing. So lawyers get a bad rap because they're kind of honest about what they do, even though people don't consider lawyers honest because their job is to maneuver around the law and try to get the law, the interpretation of the law to suit them and win their cases. At least they acknowledge that's what they're doing. And where the media, they're trying to get around reality to form your opinion for you. And most people are completely unaware that that's what's going on. They think that they're just being presented with information. And so when they find out that the media is just like lawyers, they're shocked. I think that's pretty much what, in a nutshell, that is why GamerGate started the way it started, the way it exploded. It was because so many people not only didn't expect that of the media in general, but in an area like games, to be that corrupt, of course they were going to be shocked. And so that's the difference. The other thing I wanted to say goes all the way back to the Trump stuff and the reporter and everything. I wanted to point out it is pretty typical social justice crap to try to insert sexism into politics like this where it isn't. I want to remind everybody, because it'll happen again in this election if Hillary's going to be all involved in election and everything, that there were people complaining the last time she ran that she got softball questions about her clothes and her hair and shit like that. And of course, they were all blaming men for this. They were all blaming patriarchy for this. Like, all these feminists wrote articles for magazines and webzines and all that Hillary Clinton wasn't taken seriously, so since she wasn't taken seriously, she wasn't asked the same questions as the men. Well, the thing is, those questions were asked to appeal to female voters. Men really don't care about Hillary Clinton's hair and clothes. There isn't a man out there that's like, damn, I want to know where Hillary got that pantsuit. I want to know why she decided to change her hairstyle. But of course there are women that want to know those things. And of course at the other end of it, when you did ask Hillary hardball questions, the next thing you got was feminists complaining that they were trying to torpedo Hillary because she was a girl. So this isn't anything new. You're going to see shit like this towards every single one of the candidates, particularly the Republican candidates, because although there's feminism on both sides, the left-leaning feminists are a lot more loud-mouthed about that than the right-leaning feminists. And we're probably going to see this quite a bit.
So I had a quick story, and I wanted to go back to the representation of unsavory professions. I had recently totaled my car, and when that had happened, I had a tire blowout. Thankfully, nobody else hit me on the highway, but I spun out. I crashed into a chalk barrier. I figured out it was not concrete the hard way, and I had my car facing the opposite side of the highway, and some of the people, because the road was currently under construction, came out. They put their thing in front of my car, and then when the cop came, he was the nicest. He was real nice to me. He understood what I was going through, and he wasn't being mean with me or anything. I wasn't in trouble with the law or anything. I just crashed my car on the highway, and I was calling for my people, and I had my family and stuff. And I had my license and registrations. There wasn't any problem there. But at the same time, I get home, I'm getting off the adrenaline. I had already spoken with my girlfriend and all my friends, and I had sort of gotten over the initial shock. I look at my tickets I had gotten, and I had a reckless driving ticket for having a tire blowout on me, as well as a ticket for I don't remember if it was property damage or no, it was not having. I had a license on me. It wasn't my normal license. All I had to do was bring it my normal one down to the DMV, and the ticket went away. But the point is, I had a a reckless driving ticket, and there's probably some cause or reason why he gave me that ticket. But at the same time, it's damn, that cop dicked me over. He tried to Scrooge me for any ticket he could have just to fucking make a penny off of my crash. Now that I've totaled my car and I'm sitting here hungry in my house or whatever. So either way, there's a lot of jobs in America that you're gonna think and sit and you're gonna hate those people, and some more justified than others. Lawyers are dicks. They're just out there to dick people over or get whatever they want. You can argue that cops are dicks because they're just out there to make quotas and get their tickets and protect and serve and all that bullshit, but whatever. But it's just about really being aware of what jobs exist to really pay a service to people and help people, like, say, the paramedic or the firefighter. Those are jobs that, without question, are just there to make sure that people who are in peril or in need can get help and can build them up in a philosophical sense. Well, you have jobs like lawyers, like taxmen, even though taxmen are a necessary job, tax guys got to come and make sure your roads don't have potholes in them and that the fucking lights still turn on the city streets or whatever. But at the same time, nobody fucking likes taxmen, just like nobody likes cops and nobody likes all these other jobs. And those jobs are necessarily about bringing people down. And there's a good distinction to make between jobs that are necessary that bring people down, like cops and taxmen, because I'd like the roads not to have potholes, and I'd like to know that the cops are there in case somebody's breaking into my house or something. And then there are the jobs that aren't necessarily needed for society to still function, but they're still there, and all they do is tear people down, like tabloid journalists, like professional victims on Tumblr and fucking Patreon who make more than I frankly ever will just for simply existing and shouting out about outrage culture on Twitter or whatever. And that's the distinction you need to make when you think about, well, what jobs tear people down that are necessary and which ones do it that aren't. And that's really the crux of the issue.
Hello?
All right. Well, no, thank you, John. Let's get on to the next topic. Rachel, you has another story.
Yes, go, Rachel. Go. Go, 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 go.
Go, go, go.
Go, 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 go.
Rachel.
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 You're at the precipice of the luge. Get in the rickety cart and go down.
Sorry. My computer was being fucking god damn it.
Just do it.
I'm sorry.
Don't
My damn computer was being all weird. Okay, so gaming culture causes domestic violence. Australian women's advocate Rosie Batty, am I even pronouncing this correctly? Recently suggested that gaming culture has given children inappropriate views on sex and violence, and that schools need to combat that with programs to teach kids about healthy relationships. So instead of asking that parents make sure that their kids play age-appropriate games and that they understand the context of everything taking place, she is suggesting that from kindergarten upward, that students must be re-educated about sex and violence. Never mind that there is no causal link between gaming and actual violence, because gaming is an easy scapegoat that helps to push her view of domestic violence, where women are only a part of the conversation when they are victims and can never be the aggressors.
Okay.
This is
Rose Batty? Rose Batty?
Yeah, Rosie
Yes.
Batty.
Rose Batty.
Rosie Batty. Her name is Batty.
Oh, no. Okay, I gotta do this. But it's bad because it's sort of, but you know, like Roy
I
Batty.
understand why she's...
Is she escaped from the... I need to hunt her down.
I understand why she's doing what she's doing, though, because, I mean, it's...
rain-soaked noir noir cityscape.
Oddly enough, I know
the
exactly...
reference.
Okay, no, I'm not. But oddly enough, I know why she's doing what she's doing. She's very biased in the situation because her son was killed by her husband, and ever since then she's been on this tireless crusade, but that's no fucking excuse to preach this idea that domestic violence is entirely about violence against women, and that the cause of it must be something like gaming culture. And that you need to basically put all these kids...
Rachel?
Did we lose a Rachel?
No.
You've been kidnapped by...
Uh-oh, looks like she got sucked.
Wait, wait, so wait. Did I get cut off? Where did I get cut off?
You got cut off.
Yeah, I've been having really bad connection issues. But what I'm saying is that she lost her son. Her husband basically killed.
No, that part we heard. You got to the cause of the
domestic
no
violence.
Excuse to say that the cause of this is only one thing.
Yeah, and it's also no excuse to frame the entire discussion of domestic violence to be just about violence against women, because that is her whole shtick. I mean, I looked her up. That's mostly what she advocates. That's mostly all of her advocacy work is around combating violence against women and domestic violence framed in in a way that it's talking about, it's just purely about violence against women and nothing else. That's the way it is. And also, by the way, we need to make sure that we tell these children that you know, we need to make sure they have the right thoughts about things.
We don't want children to grow up to be violent, so let's make them think about violence while they're in kindergarten.
Apparently.
This is like the most brilliantly stupid idea, and you know, I'm sorry that she's experienced a tragedy in her life, and it's a pretty awful tragedy. My family has experienced some pretty awful tragedies too, and I bet you every family in this group, everybody's family in this group has experienced some really awful tragedies. Like you said, Rachel, it does not give anybody an excuse to decide that there is a one-dimensional answer to a multifaceted question, like what are the causes behind domestic violence and what can we do about it. As far as video games are concerned, if video games were the cause of domestic violence, then it wouldn't have happened before they existed. And clearly it did, because there are laws about it well prior to not only video games, but the invention of electricity. In fact, like I've said before in other podcasts, the world is not as violent today as it has been in the past. And we are, even though there's world war now, just like there has always been war all over the world, on a personal level, we abhor violence and are much more easily shocked by it more today than we have ever been in you know, any recent history and even ancient history. As you go back, it was much more normal, for instance, for governments to use extremely violent means, local governments, city governments, and even mobs to use extremely violent means to punish people for crimes. You know, today we put people in a cell. Years ago we used to tie all four of their limbs to a different horse and smack the horses so that they would run off and tear the person limb from limb. So it's definitely a little more violent than sticking someone in a cell. You know, or tarring and feathering and riding them out of town on a rail, which was an extremely slow and painful way to die. And some people survived it and had pain for the rest of their lives. So, I mean, these are things that people get like tunnel vision with regard to violence and the circumstances of their own lives or the things that they're looking at the moment. And because those things exist simultaneously, they decide there has to be some kind of a cause and effect, as if human behavior is different now on a level than that would be, you know, catastrophic, when in reality it's actually improved quite a bit. It's really I guess it's not really stupid. It's human nature to do that. That's why it's listed as a rhetorical fallacy to think that correlation is cause, is proof of cause. But the fact is, the only way for us to combat this kind of thing is to actually, every time we see something like this discussed, is to keep pointing that out. Just because these things exist together does not necessarily mean one caused the other. And in fact, one of these things has existed for centuries and is not as bad now as it was prior to the existence of the other. So it's quite ridiculous to attribute human violence to something that's only been around for a fraction of our history.
So there's a concept I want to touch lightly on, and I'll make sure I'm very brief with this. It's called Integrative Complexity, and this is something I heard from a video by a YouTuber named JT Sexkick. He did a video on, it was titled Understanding the Social Justice Warrior, or something like that. And the idea behind the concept, integrative complexity, there's a difference. It's kind of like a level. Somebody with low integrative complexity sees things in more of moral absolutes, black and whites, or they only understand the world from their own like preconceived notions, their own viewpoints. While somebody with high integrative complexity sees lots of different shades of gray, they take in multiple viewpoints, and while they're not like, tree huggers that think all you have to do is fucking go in the trees and hug shit, like they can have their own opinions, but they're willing to understand and take into account other people's opinions. It's seeing the world you want to see it versus seeing the world as it is the difference between a low integrative complexity thinker and a high integrative complexity thinker. And it's the way these sort of articles and these stories come out with people trying to route things like violence in society or domestic abuse, rather, to video games. It reeks of low integrative complexity thinking to me, and maybe there's some irony in that statement because I'm using the concept to immediately come to the conclusion that because somebody made a statement like that it's a fallacy or whatever. But there's probably some other fallacy in that would prove me right. I'm confusing myself. The point is, when people go on about these sort of moral black and whites, the first thing I think is that that can't be the only cause of this situation, and your solution probably isn't well thought out.
Okay, so the concept of low or of it integrative complexity does sound very interesting, and you got me thinking now. If that actually determines how you see the world, it probably also determines how you respond to the world, correct? So a person with maybe higher integrative complexity would be less likely to have an automatic same response for everything. If various issues and problems or circumstances come up in their life that need even an immediate response. If a person has a more complex style of thinking, they may be less likely, for instance, to respond to anger or fear with immediate violence. In other words, that concept actually kind of explains why games not only don't cause violence, but might help prevent it. If you get kids, obviously you want to make games age appropriate and so on, but if you get kids practicing keeping track of multiple things at once, practicing making their thinking more complex and taking into account more factors at once when they're dealing with circumstances rather than just act, react, act, react. And I'm not just talking about video games here, I'm talking about games in general, because most games that involve any kind of strategy have that element to them where you're keeping track of multiple factors in the game. Like Gothic Fan 51 is mentioning Dungeons and Dragons and Magic. These are things that, like, and yeah, Warhammer is another good one. These are things that you get kids thinking in a more complex pattern. You get kids more used to being pensive and assessing situations, things like that, when they're little. As they get older, they will be better at problem solving. And if they're better at problem solving, they will be more likely to deal with issues that come up in a productive manner, or at least a well thought out manner, as opposed to just, turning around and popping someone in the jaw because they're angry or scared.
I think you make a lot of good points there. In a mechanical sense, yeah, it's very sound that what you're saying is in the mechanical process of the brain, having people train through video games and other media to be able to problem solve in that sense. It is quite healthy and good for the brain. I think that there's also another layer to it, and it includes other media, but I'm specifically saying that video games and tabletop role-playing games are some of the most effective, because not only in a mechanical mindset, but also a not necessarily narrative, but experience mindset. Games are some of the most powerful tools for making you experience what it's like to be in another situation, whether that be you're a Russian soldier in the middle of Stalingrad fearing for your life because the Germans are knocking down the door, and if you poke your head out the window, it's immediate death, or what it's like to live in Renaissance Italy through the eyes of an assassin, or whatever other experiences games want to offer. It puts you in as many different diverse shoes and mindsets to be looking at as the market offers, and I think that's one of the really powerful things about not just video games, but other media as well. Say any good movie should convey a similar feeling of, oh wow, that's what it's like to be in that situation. I can really empathize with the people I'm seeing on screen or whatever.
Anna Cherry?
Yeah, I definitely want to back up a lot of what John's saying from both neuroscience and psychology, as well as, just basically a science perspective, that as you guys can see for yourselves in Jane McGonigal's 2 TED Talks, she does a lot of research on not only her personal experience of overcoming basically suicidal tendencies because of the tremendous amount of pain she was going through after a concussion and the long recovery time. So basically, there's a lot of people who have sicknesses that take a long time, or chronic illnesses that basically make them unable to cope with that stress. And she actually created a game that has helped her get through this really dark period, but also has helped many others who have played it. And there's legitimate ways in which gaming can make your body healthier, and have actually even games like Call of Duty, something that you would think is mindless because you're basically running around killing people and only your instinctual reflexes is what's needed. Even games like that actually improve multitasking abilities and stress coping mechanisms and a variety of other things that make a healthier brain. On top of that, specifically with mentioning MTG and D&D and things like that, as well as the more RPG styles of video games too, there's been studies that have shown that people who read fiction growing up are actually a lot more empathetic and able to basically have a high level of integrative complexity or whatever it was, that they have an ability to empathize with others, and they're generally just nicer people. So reading fiction and fantasy combined with very real stress coping techniques that your brain learns through playing games is the reason why the games are actually opposite of what the Thompson and the Sarkeesian are saying about how games impact culture.
All right. Do we have any? Well, thank you, Anna. That was very, very good stuff. Do we have any other stories? Rachel, did you have anything else? Oh, Rachel. No?
No, I don't. Go on main topic. Do it now.
Well, okay. So I have a topic. It's not really factual. It's more of like a thought piece. I thought I would put it out there for you guys to think about. It may or may not be. It's more conjecture on my part. Sometimes when you are in the mindset that I am in, you could often. It's good to put these questions out so that your ideas and notions and preconceptions still get challenged. I think that there might be some truth here, but I also want to put it out there so that you guys could think about it too, because I don't ever want to assume that you don't want to end up in that place where you start seeing things in places where they're not happening. So I wrote this little thing because I'm really into comics and I'm also a comic artist myself. By the way, my comic Good Guy, it's on TV Tropes. It actually has a page on TV Tropes now. So I don't know if you guys knew that, but somebody put it on TV Tropes, which is kind of funny. And I felt kind of flattered by that. So did Allison's Xenospora comic, too. Although some of the tropes are a little iffy. But anyway, as a comic artist and a nerd that grew up on that stuff, I have a passion for, comics. So this is something that I've been thinking about since I've been seeing it popping up, much in the same way that, you guys were talking about Tabletop and how this sort of social justice stuff has been creeping in to media. I wanted to like put this out there. So all right. So anyway, socially conscious comics and comics media. Why do they fail? In the ongoing journey to move comics off of shelves, as in selling them, get viewers to tune in and watch television shows about comics properties, or sell movie tickets, Marvel Comics, ABC, and 20th Century Fox have tried to pull many stunts. They made Thor a woman for a time, and despite using daytime television and news coverage to set it up, sales plummeted after the initial curiosity of the first few issues. I bought them myself, and I was curious, and then I got really bored because it wasn't really good, in my opinion. Then Agent Peggy Carter was given a TV series. Peggy Carter was a supporting character on the original Captain America film that they gave her her own show, which put the post-war modern woman in a world of sexist men and allowed her the spotlight for a change. This, unfortunately, took a character I actually really liked because she was a really good partner to Captain America and made her into a bitter and childish caricature of the we can do it woman of the early 1950s. Lastly, 20th Century Fox tried to pull another stunt wherein they made what would appear to be an arbitrary change to the Fantastic Four casting. This wouldn't have been a big deal, except media outlets that were generating hype around the film were also attempting to use the casting of Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch as a way to drum up controversy. So much so that the more tolerant viewers were saying they would buy a ticket simply to support the progressive ideas that were held within the film, without knowing how good the film was going to be. In the wake of the massive failure of Fantastic Four and the failure of the Thor comic, one must ask, where does progressivism lose its edge? At what point is being edgy not really all that edgy? Why do we become satisfied with mediocre storytelling and creative content that claims to push boundaries, but feels like it's the same old song? That's it. Hannah?
You know what? I don't think that progressivism was ever really edgy. It has always been sort of based on this, everything has to be fair, everything has to be even, everybody has to be happy, and we're going to just take every angle we possibly can and just force it to happen every way we possibly can. There's nothing edgy about that. That's like kindergarten logic. It's not. It's like this wishful thinking that you can create a world where nobody ever feels left out, nobody ever feels less capable in a given circumstance than the people around them, or less smart, or less funny, or less liked, or whatever. It isn't possible because people are not one-dimensional. We're not cookie cutters of each other. We're all individuals. And we all have like our own unique set of personality traits and our own unique set of characteristics that color our experience of the world around us and our interests and everything about us. And it is insane. It is flat out insane to reach adulthood and think that you can cram happiness down everyone's throats by forcing everyone to walk in lockstep, and forcing everyone to have the same opinions, and forcing everyone to want the same things, and produce the same things, and experience the same things, and never, ever, ever color outside the lines. And, you know, I would be completely miserable in that world. And, in fact, it bothers me enough that if somebody tried to force me into that situation, I'm going to scribble all over the page. I do not like to be put in a situation where other people's opinions dictate my interests. You know, I'm fine with the idea of not stepping on anybody's toes, but to be treated as though existing in a different state. You know, whether it's I like a certain religion and I'll practice that certain religion, or I don't dress the same, or I don't talk the same, or you know, whatever. I choose to work harder, or I choose to do a different type of work. You know, all of that stuff is not stepping on somebody's toes. To be treated like being different is stepping on somebody's toes is every bit as much a form of bigotry as treating someone as if being black or being female or being gay or bisexual or trans is stepping on somebody's toes. They're all characteristics. They're all things about the person that are just part of your right to exist and part of your right to be. It's not edgy to think everybody has to all be alike. It's juvenile and foolish and unproductive. And although they call it progressive, it's exactly the opposite. It's regressive, and it's never going to work. It's never going to succeed. The only thing that will happen is if the authoritarian so-called progressives gain enough power to be able to punish people for not accepting that force, they will create a level of misery in the world that is beyond anything we have ever seen. And that's it.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. I was just going to say, to comment on the whole edgy thing. You and I are pretty close in age. I remember a time when if a person had tattoos, that was considered pretty edgy. Like you were either in the military, in the biker gang, or you were an ex-convict or something. Or at least that was the assumption. Like it was really unusual. If you had piercings that weren't just like in your ear, and you were a man, that was unusual. And
yeah, if you had piercings in your ear and you were a man, that was unusual.
Yeah,
too.
like there was a time, right? And now I find that if you don't have tattoos, you're unusual. Like that's like the weird. Like I go to college and everyone has tats and piercings and their hair is colored, and you would expect that, of course, for that like sort of age group. But I'm like, wow, I feel like kind of a fuddy-duddy. Even the professors are like that. Like I have one of my teachers, she has like pink hair, and she's like in her 30s or whatever.
Problem glasses.
Yeah, actually, yes, problem glasses. Yes.
Now everybody and their mom has tattoos, and it's hipster Barbie now with matching tattoo accessories.
It used to be considered dorky, nerdy, geeky. You get made fun of for having glasses. And there are people now who wear them as a fashion accessory. Glasses that don't actually have prescription lenses or corrective lenses in them. They're just glasses frames without even any lenses at all.
Exactly. I was going to say, I've seen people who wear just the frame, and there's nothing in it. And it's purely a fashion statement. It's reminiscent of the 90s. There was the raver kids would wear pacifiers around their neck. And
my God, I remember those.
Yeah, and they would just have them, or like these furry bracelets, or like these furry handcuffs.
Well, the pacifier was a thing for, no doubt a lot of people were pretending because they were children, but originally it was for those who are rolling on Molly or ecstasy, so they would have it in their mouths and don't chew up their tongue because they need to do something with their teeth.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was definitely, because I used to be a club kid myself, but I would see
there's
this
pacifier candy.
Yeah, no, but I would see this in if I saw it at a party, I would understand why, but I would see this like at the mall, on the bus, in school. Like these were places where you wouldn't see that, like there wasn't a party going on, but they wanted
just
to
copying the style.
They wanted to send the message to other people that that's what they did. They wanted to show people that that's what their interests were. But yeah, I mean, like being a guy who doesn't grow his beard out and doesn't have tattoos and doesn't do those things, which would have been like many years ago would have been considered edgy, is actually edgy. Like what I'm doing is edgy. I'm not trying to do it, but that's just what it is because I'm not interested in doing that stuff. But to go back to the thing about the comics, because my reason for thinking it is when it comes to the Femme Thor thing and the Fantastic Four thing, I predicted when those things were announced years ago, when I heard it was going to happen, and I heard the reasoning behind it, when they were like, because it was on The View, and they had all of the ladies in the panel talking about female Thor, and they were like, "Oh, this is such a great idea." And some of my friends were talking about it, and I said, "This isn't going to last. This is not going to last because when these things are done, they are not done for ideological reasons. They are done to sell comic books. And when the novelty passes, they're going to go back to the way it was. They always do. Marvel and DC and anybody else. Whenever you get to a point where they're like, we need to move comics, but we don't know what to do. They kill somebody off. They make a dramatic change. They switch something around. And then once that's done, it sells more books for a short time, and then they go back to once that becomes, people like get adjusted to that, they switch back. And then it drums up business again because now people are like, oh, I miss, they brought Captain America back, they brought Thor back, they did this or that. I want to go back and buy books again. Or they create some kind of event. It's all business. And I don't think that's really a bad thing. I think that that's totally fine, like whatever. But unfortunately, when this happened with female Thor, I predicted that when Marvel inevitably went back and gave the hammer back to Thor, the feminists were going to come out and say that it was sexist. And sure enough, they did. It was as predictable as the sunrise. They were going to come out and say, there was like an article that said the man-child gets his hammer back. Like, there was literally, like, that was how they were wording it. And I was like, guys, first off, this is really childish that you're reacting this way. Did you not see this coming like a mile off? I mean, it's all business, and you bought into it. And the funny thing is that Marvel lost... their sales were plummeting because the initial the novelty wore off, and I bought the books, and I didn't really think they were all that great, but I read them anyway. Once the novelty wore off, they went back to normal stuff. Then Marvel had to find another way to make money, and the people who supposedly really wanted it weren't enough of an audience to support it. Otherwise, it would have stayed. So, I mean, I think that says a lot. As far as Agent Carter goes, it was the most irritating shit. I mean, I'm only bringing this up because, I wanted to talk about this show for a while, but there were some people who wrote in and asked me to talk about it.
We also do it on Nerdcast.
Yeah, so, just real quick, it was such a departure from what the character really was, and it was so transparent. I mean, again, it was so... trying to be edgy, but there was nothing really edgy about it. It was very predictable, and it was a piss-poor rendition. And I think that I'd like to do a Nerdcast about Agent Carter, just so that it gives an opportunity for some of you guys to see it too. I mean, it wasn't a bad show, all in all, but just awful. And I guess
it wasn't bad, but it was just awful.
Well, I mean, it was okay. What I mean is that if you look out, I know.
Rage. You have to bottle it tight.
I know.
You have to let it explode at the appropriate hour. Now is not the appropriate hour.
All right, I will wait.
You gotta wait to spill your spaghetti.
Yeah. John, we've been spilling spaghetti all night. Like, I'm skating in it.
It was like, it could have been great, and they really dropped the ball. That's basically what I'm saying. Hannah, go ahead. What about Thor?
Well, it's really about the Thor and the whole socially conscious comic thing. I've been thinking about this. One of the big reasons this kind of thing does not work is very, very easily worded. They lack passion. The people that are creating it lack passion. They're not doing it because it's something they love and they want to do. It's not even as much about the fans. When you look at what Allison created. Allison's comic is doing well with people as long as they have access to it, and Allison's comic is great because she's doing something that she is passionate about. The story is coming out great because she's doing something that she's passionate about. The writers of comics that have been around for all of comics time, that the comics that have lasted for years and years and years, the people who draw them, the people who write the stories, the people who create, who are all part of that creative process, create something that is successful because they are passionate about it. And the fans pick that up. The people who actually love comics and actually love the stories and the characters, and they're not looking to be given a lesson. and they're not looking to be, to be handed something that somebody did because it's their homework. They're looking to have a taste of the creator's passion. And it's the same thing with fiction novels. It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with painting and dancing and cooking. Anything that you do where you are a creator, if you do not get across to your consumer, your audience, that you are passionate about what you are doing, you could even have the most technical talent in the world. You could be technically correct at every aspect of your art, and you could do something that is, technically one of the best things out there. Technically socially conscious, technically speaks to people, technically this, technically that. But if you don't have that passion, it is going to fall flatter than a pancake. Your work will sink. It'll be at the bottom and it'll disappear, and nobody will give a rat's ass about it, because that's really not what they're looking for. When we peruse the arts, when we consume the arts, we're not looking for things that are technically pretty or technically interesting or technically creative. We're looking to get a taste of the creator's passion. And I would call it a level of intimacy.
Yeah, I mean that's basically why the stuff that claims to be progressive but really isn't, because it's just saying what everything else is already saying, comes across as kind of flat and dull, because it's not. You don't think it's coming from a place that's genuine. And it's not doing it for the right reasons. Like, I watched if you guys that are watching this, and I'm going to tell this to all you guys too, if you want to see somebody who's really passionate about their work, I watched a documentary about Jack Kirby, and it's basically a series of videos. I think it's like 5 parts. You can find it on YouTube. Any documentary of Jack Kirby is fine. He is a comic artist that basically lived. He's considered the king, all right, and he's been around from the Great Depression all the way up until like the maybe the early 90s or something. And he'd been doing comics the entire time. And this guy, everything he did came from a place of passion. He wanted to create something new. He wanted to explore big questions and large ideas of incredible expanse. And he just set an incredible tone. But one of the things he never did was preach. And when people came to him and they asked him, like, he was challenged in certain interviews where they were like, what do you think about female characters? He goes, I like female characters. Whatever. I make them good. I think that they can be just as good and just as evil as the male ones. I just treat them the same way. Or when he does like things that might have a religious context, he doesn't have a problem doing that. When he does things that he basically made in one book, he predicted the atomic bomb 2 years before the atomic bomb. And it was so much so that the FBI went to him because they thought he might know something. But he was just doing it in the story because he was looking at the world, but he was looking at the world in such a way that he wasn't looking at it through a specific lens. He was just thinking, how can I make this interesting for everyone, for as many people as possible? How can I speak a language that speaks to the human condition in such a way that anybody alive at the time can pick up my books and take an interest? And that only comes from a desire to connect with everybody, a desire to connect with people on a visceral and human level, beyond, targeting specific people while at the same time excluding others, because you might have some moral high ground. Jack Kirby never thought of himself as better than anyone. He just wanted to talk to everyone. He had things on his mind. He had things on his heart that he wanted to share. And that sort of stuff, that kind of thinking, that a man like that, I think that somebody else can come come around again. But I don't think that we live in a world that allows for people to explore everything in the same way that he did back then. And I think that's one of the things that, I don't know, for me, that's one of the reasons why I'm so steadfastly against censorship, because it gets in the way of exploring places that, if you're really concerned about being edgy, that's where you know, when you lift that, you can really go there, and you can look at things that you may never have thought of. So, I don't know.
Yeah, well, speaking of deep thoughts, I'm going to pull something out of the GG and BC Skype chat. There's a young philosopher of the Twitters that I'd like to quote. Apparently these are a sequence of a couple tweets. I have so much power over males. Yes, objectification of women is terrible, but boobs legit get you anything you want, and IRN lied love it. I'm not saying I'm a prostitute, just that manipulating teenage boys is hilarious. They get so wound up over nothing. I am a goddess, praise me. And then her final concluding philosophy for all of us. I'm sick of being an object to boys. I'm a fucking person with feelings and shit. When they don't see past your tits, just fuck off. I don't know, Brian, your wonderful speech moved me about humanity, but I think this young female philosopher just really has it down.
I don't think I can counter that.
Yeah, it's just but, you know, from her tits to the world.
Yes, from my nipples to your eyeballs.
It's just like you can't top that, people.
I just love that. The power of tits compel you. The power of tits compel you. Stop looking at my tits.
Speaking of which, Allison, I wanted to mention that you're on your comic made TV tropes along with mine. Well, did you look at it? What kind of tropes did you get? I think we should score ourselves in our tropes.
Okay, well, I think, you know what? We should do a TV tropes on a nerd pod.
Yeah, we should.
But it's like, it's almost at the hour, and I promised someone I would actually talk to them at the hour.
All right.
Let's bottle that egotism so we can ejaculate it over our audience at the appropriate time.
You've gotten 2 nerdcasts you've planned in one show.
Jesus Christ!
Is that a normal thing?
No, it's getting a little nerdy in here. We need to get more.
We're coffee everywhere, Allison.
Allison's just all about edging this show, man. It's brutal.
So many edges. We might just get a paper cut, man. Shit, we might get cut on the edges.
Okay, all right. Stop muttering. Squirrels.
Shh. Squirrel.
All right, Allison, you want to do any final words of?
We're at the end.
That was the last story. Yeah.
I just dropped out there for like 15 minutes, and I was like, I had an odyssey, man. It was deep. It was deep. I'd tell you all about it, but you wouldn't understand.
I'm not as familiar with comics, so I wasn't sure I was necessarily as comfortable commenting on a lot of the things that were being said.
But everything else that we've talked about has made you comfortable.
Well, I mean, not comfortable in the sense that I feel like comfortable
need a
because
shower.
people are on.
Loaded question. Why?
You just brought me in a loaded question, yeah.
Oh yeah, I could do that too, you know. I can do these things. Well, okay. Sure. Let's end the movie. Let's end the show. I'm not in a movie. I'm in a show. Sorry.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a little bit confusing, but anyway. Yeah. Well, if you want to contact us, you want to have us talk about something that interests you, it's topic at badgerpod.com. And if you want to fund us basically falling on our faces over and over again and skating around in massive puddles of spaghetti, please do point your browser to patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. At the very least, when you listen to us, you know that this is authentic, because, I mean, nobody could be this bad, right?
Yeah.
On purpose, really.
Just wait for Airplay to happen.
Here's what I got an idea for another show. We should do one where everything we say is scripted.
Oh no! Oh God, that would be
all of our responses, all of our statements, and we read them as mechanically as possible.
I can't live in that kind of constraint, Brian. I am chaos incarnate.
That's great.
I'm submissive.
Okay, come on, Brian. You really think we could do
wait. I'm gonna make it. I'll take it up a notch. Not only should all of our dialogue be scripted, but we should have someone else a different someone else write our dialogue for
Write
us.
it for us.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like a job for the for anybody out here who's a total
For the
out in the
patrons.
audience who's a total spur,
Basically, we're
like myself.
Yeah, let them put on a Honey Badger show. We'll
Yeah,
act
write
out.
up the Honey Badger show and we'll read it.
You all have to be wearing big hoop earrings and flannel shirts.
I can't.
I
I don't even
already
have
do
pierced
that on my
Are
ears.
you kidding? No, it's too fucking hot where I am, and
somebody.
I'm Canadian. You know, it's like 20.
I do the flannel, but no earrings. I just.
I lost track of my last pair of hoop earrings in the 80s.
Okay, you guys, when I came back in, you were talking about this normcore stuff. Are we supposed to be
Yes.
talking about this?
I have
no,
a,
no, it was.
No, just
we,
keep it like that.
we were just talking about Brown was talking about how just being a normal person is now edgy and just dressing like a normal human being.
Well, because I'm looking at this clothing. I'm like, this is casual
now it's actually a fashion statement to dress
not
like a
casual
soccer
enough.
mom.
How about
Well, in modeling, it used to be that you couldn't get a job having tattoos. Nowadays, I can't get a job because all the magazines want heavily tattooed girls on the covers. So it's quite an interesting flip.
It's hilarious. You know what's extra hilarious as a little bit of a segue? I'm sorry, Anna. There are people who still like preach about demanding acceptance for having tattoos, even though nobody has a problem with your fucking tattoos.
Yeah, there are places that actually, like I've worked in retail. There are retailers that require that their employees cover their tattoos on the job. And if you work in a hot environment and you have tattoos on your forearms, you have to wear a long sleeve shirt in that hot environment. So the general public doesn't have a problem with the tattoos, but there's a lot of employers that act still as though the general public does have a problem with the tattoos, and they will not let people show them.
Oh, yeah.
And there's they get customers that come in and complain that people are forced to hide their tattoos, and they'll tell them that other people object to the tattoos, but nobody ever actually comes in and does.
Okay,
Well,
I just want to make a
record store or
comment.
something.
I want to make a comment on this normcore, this vanilla fashion, non-fashion, but it's still not casual enough, because if it has buttons or zippers or ties, it's too much work.
Are you saying that it's problematic, Allison?
Yeah, it's freaking buttons. Like, what the hell? What? This is not casual. You have to button something up or zip it up or tie it. What? That's effort.
So basically, we should just go in like 90s sweats. Just go into
the hole in the top. Doesn't even need armholes.
Well, then they'll just call that something like sackcore.
Sackcore. There. That's my thing.
Or you're a burlap sexual.
Well,
blobcore. I like that.
Blobcore. Yeah. There you go.
Anna's a genius.
Just show up in like pajama pants and like.
I wish I could take credit for that, though. It is a movement that fellow porn star Stoya is involved in, and it's one of those things. You're sitting on the floor in your sweatshirt, and slobcore, hashtag slobcore.
Well,
just wear like some pajama pants and like a wife beater, or like your boyfriend's wife beater, and just fucking go to the store like that.
Holy crap! You ever see the People of Walmart website?
Yeah.
That is the new edgy. People of Walmart is the new edgy. You know what? I predict the next edgy thing is going to be people coming out and saying, we just have vanilla sex. We don't do any kind of fetish, anything.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that, Hannah.
That's going to be edgy next.
Yeah.
No position. We're just going to be in the missionary position for the sole purpose of procreation.
I'm waiting for that to be a fetish. Just one man, one woman, one bottle of water for rehydration, and that's it. Nothing.
And no lube.
No lube. The new edgy.
No lube.
All right, well, we need to end this because we're at the end.
It's gonna be hashtag missionary core.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's wrap it up, guys.
One woman, one man, kink.
You gotta make sure it's safe. Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Every time.
Wrap it up. Keep it safe.
We're never one guy, one girl. That's
all
gonna
right,
be
all
like.
Right, shut up, everybody. Squirrels, be quiet.
Now that you know that if being plain and normal is edgy, go out there and be edgy. Pull out all your earrings and
pumpkin spice.
So
your Prince Alberts and your whatever it is you got going on, and get tattoos over your tattoos of skin.
Jesus Christ.
The pumpkin spice must
Let
flow.
John speak.
I want to throw out a point very quickly. I just recently graduated primary school or high school, whatever you call it, wherever you are, and the girls' fashion sense seemed to consist of leggings without skirts, just straight leggings, really baggy T-shirts, and Uggs, or like the really like sandals with socks, but like they were like these flat sandals that everybody had, and they were some kind of Nikes. I don't know what they were called. It was almost like wearing Crocs. It's nasty as hell. I hated them. I think they were called like Chubs or Uggs or something. I don't know.
Guys get Chubs. But you're a lot of that in college. I can tell you that for sure. That's going to be the thing.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit in college.
No.
But okay, let's end that here.
Okay, so if you guys, I'm hitting the button.
Wait. Let's just do one last shill.
Okay.
I'm getting out the shill though, so let's do the shill though. www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Give to us. You know you want to. You know you want to.
You do.
You do.
The Oracle wants Raven Moondragon to do the shilling.
Oh fuck. Do you have like? Why did you guys have to mention Raven Moondragon on the day that I was just like so exhausted?
You don't have to do it.
Well, I can give it a try. I can reach down deep into the depths of my lagging spirit and try.
There is a part of Allison that really is this person, and she just hates her.
She just did everything that I hate about myself. Yeah, you should give because I really want to have a pumpkin spice latte, and I'd like to get a machine to do it. And even though I don't think I could actually use it, so I also need to get somebody to run the machine because I probably would just blow it up or something. But yeah, that's the thing. That's what she should do. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Raven. All right, so we will see you guys later. Give us comments about how normal you are or how edgy you are.